Can you reflect on those Sqad Up days?
Of course, man. You know, Sqad. That's what made me. That's what made me a household name to everybody. You know, if it wasn't for the Sqad, you wouldn't know my sound. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't know my sound. You wouldn't know of a kid, or even not the kid. However, you wouldn't know me. Period.
Those came after Katrina, or did
Man, that was before Katrina, and after Katrina.
Because I remember you were doing some recording out there in Texas after Katrina.
Yeah, with Flip and everything. You know, we did the mixtape with you, nigga. Southern Smoke. You know what I mean? For real, man. For real, man. We was grinding, man. We was working hard. We was working.
Who was back in Sqad Up back then?
It was me, Super Blanco, Yo, Gutter. He's with Wayne now. T Streets, he's also with Wayne now. You know, and me. You know, like it was us. Like we was the Sqad. We was the first Young Money. You know what I'm saying? We was the first Young Money. Yeah.
So do you still talk to Gutter or T Streets or any of those?
Yeah, I run into Streets every now and then in the city when he comes down. I talk to Gutter every now and then, you know. But you know, overall, we still cool. We still reach out to each other for whatever. Like, say if he was to drop a project or whatever, you know, I'm gonna reach out to him. Oh, yo, that shit dope. However it go, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm gonna be like, nigga, you ain't put me on there, nigga. You know what I'm saying? For real. And, you know, he reach out to me, do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we still cahoots with each other, man.
So it went from Sqad Up, then were you officially part of Young Money or you was just affiliated when you had done that Bobby V record?
Yeah, it was mostly like just being more like affiliated. But by me being around Wayne for so long, you know what I'm saying? It felt like, well, I'm here, you know, this is me, you feel me? Like, it's not like, oh, I'm just this new dude, you know, coming around, you know what I'm saying? I was with Wayne before any one of y'all was ever around him, you know, for real, you know, before he was rich as he is right now, you know what I'm saying? For real, so, you know, me coming back around, you know, like, it wasn't all about the paperwork and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? It was just, all right, I'm here, let's get this work done. You know, let's get it in. You feel me?
So then how did you get from that part to meeting 50 Cent and the whole G Unit situation happening?
Well, after we did the Mrs. Officer record, you know, like we kinda, you know, had all the differences, you know, and that's when we kinda parted ways. You know, we parted ways from that, and I just kept on grinding, you know what I'm saying? You know, my homie X, you know what I'm saying? Like my big brother, you know, also my manager, you feel me? You know, for real, like he do like just put it all behind me, you know what I mean? Like, yo, this is what you gonna do, but you gonna do this. You know what I mean? For real, you know, just to, you know, keep me with a mellow head, you know, in our streets, and and we kept grinding, man, and we got this track. Just so happened I had to have 50 Cent on the hook. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was the song I got called Better Walk. And so I did the track, you know, I killed it. You know what I mean? Shot the video for it and everything, and 50 heard about it. He heard of it. And when he heard of it, he went to listen to it. He didn't listen to it like, oh, let me check him out. He listened to it like, yo, what you mean? A dude got me, put me on the hook, you know what I'm saying? And I got the beat from Shy Money. And, you know, at the time, they wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So his intentions was to get it shut down and, you know, stuff like that. But when he heard it, he was like, yo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he killed it, you know what I'm saying? For real, you know? And he reached out to me from there. You know, and when he reached out to me, just so happened he was in New Orleans shooting a movie. Yeah, so, you know, and the rest is history, you know?
When you had worked or when you had signed to G Unit, was the intention, okay, my question is was the intention for you to just be on G Unit Records, or was the intention, and then it just so happened that you actually became part of the actual unit? Like, how did that part happen?
Well, my intentions was just to, you know, rap and you know what I'm saying, and do my thing, pursue my career. You feel? Because we also have our own label, called Rallionaire Records. So it was, what I mean, like really for the, put me where I needed to be. You feel me? And like I said, like Fifth, man, shout out to Fifth, because he, like stuck with me, and he, just believed in me and stuff, and he just was like, yo, he loved my work ethic. He loved my work ethic. He loved my sound. He always like, yo, when the world really hear you, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have no choice but to bow down. You know what I mean? Because there ain't too many people really seeing me you know what I'm saying? So, and after a while, he started talking back to, the other members and stuff like that, and, I'm there. So he's like, yo, what I mean? We're going to prove with the group. It wasn't like official, like, yo, kid, all right, you with G Unit. You know what I'm saying? It came about from songs that we did. The songs that we did, he was like, yo, you fit right in. You know what I'm saying? And we just kept it like that.
Yeah, one thing I always hear, like in interviews and stuff, they always say, kid holds his own.
Yeah, of course, because I've been holding my own my whole life. You know what I'm saying? For real, everybody's their own man. You're going to hold your own regardless. Whether it's rap or, on a job or whatever. You got to hold your own,
I also used to hear you say Rida Gang.
Yeah, that's my clique. That's my clique. That's my clique. That's a group. That I started too. Beyond just the street shit. It was a group that I had. Rest in peace Tyson. You know what I mean? He was one of the artists of that group. And he got killed, and like that. That was like a damn. You know what I'm saying? And like to this day, like you gonna still hear me screaming Rida Gang. Like that's that's the clique. Reading at a label, Rida Gang is the clique. You know what I mean? For real. I got another artist called Els Montana. Young Els. Be looking out for him. He coming soon. You know what I'm saying? One of the hungry raw. You hear me? From the NO. And yeah, we coming, man.
Being around 50, what's the biggest piece of advice you've learned off of him?
Be about business and just know that everybody's not your friend. For real, be about business and make the money. Get the money. For real, that's one thing I really learned. Be about your business, man, and get the money. For real, because rap is a hustle. You know what I'm saying? So we hustling right now. We hustling to feed our family. This is what we got to do to feed the family. So if it's not going to make you no money, you know what I'm saying? For real, like just doing free stuff is not going to put food on the table. You know what I'm saying? So make sure everything counts. Make sure everything counts. And that's what I learned from Fifth. That's why you don't hear me put out a lot of the mainstream tapes like I was telling you, you know what I'm saying? But I be having to sneak and put, you know what I'm saying, the tapes out for the city, you feel me? Because I can't leave my people starving, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't leave my people starving, man. So, I sneak and put out a tape, in New Orleans, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, because he that's one thing he not too much of a big fan of. Like, just giving people free music. For real, even though he's the mixtape king, you know what I mean? But he finds a way to get paid off that shit. You know what I'm saying? For real, and that's what he teaching us right now. Yeah.
And then what about Wayne? What was the biggest thing you probably learned from being around him?
Outwork. For real, if you don't gotta be the best, just outwork them. For real, you know what I mean? That's what I learned from Wayne. For real, like you don't gotta be better than that person, but if you can outwork that motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? You gonna beat him. For real.